This is fungal acne, but what about this one? Is this fungal acne too? Because it doesn't look exactly the same. And these are closed comedones, but these aren't really closed comedones, even though they do look similar. In this video, I'm gonna teach you how to tell the difference between fungal acne versus closed comedones so that you can tell if what you have is acne caused by skin fungus or simply closed comedones, because the way you treat them is gonna be totally different. But no worries, because I will also take care of this, so once you identify what exactly you have, I will also give you the best treatment for fungal acne or closed comedones respectively. And I want to make sure that you can really tell the difference between fungal acne and closed comedones in real life. So we will get back to the pictures from the beginning at the end of this video. Hello and welcome back to Acne from A to Z. I'm a pharmacist, and on this channel I teach you how to get rid of your acne by fighting its root cause. So if this is something you are interested in, make sure to subscribe and also follow me on Instagram and on TikTok, where I post daily videos and tips about acne. Here's the timeline of this video. We are going to look very briefly into the main signs of fungal acne and closed comedones, and then we will also check the 5 main differences between them. And at the end, like I promised, I will also give you the best treatment for each problem specifically. And last but not least, we will also get back to the pictures from the beginning and analyze them so that you can see if they are fungal acne or closed comedones. So if you are ready, let's get into it. When it comes to fungal acne, I would say that its signs are super specific even compared to other forms of acne. So first of all, fungal acne tends to appear in groups, in clusters, with pimples that are very close to each other. They also have some very similar shape and sizes, so they look pretty much identical, and you can't really tell the difference between one pimple or another one. They do not look very different, and they always look exactly identical. But probably its most specific sign is that it tends to appear as a rash, so it is very itchy. It's not painful, it's not always inflamed, but it is extremely itchy, which is a sign that you can't really find in other forms of acne or closed comedones. I'm not gonna get into its technical details or into its causes. You probably know that it is caused by a yeast called Malassezia, which also produces scalp dandruff, which is why a lot of people who already have scalp dandruff are at risk of developing fungal acne. But I have another video with a lot more details about the main signs of fungal acne, so how exactly you can identify it. If you are interested, I am going to link it below. As for closed comedones, if I had to make a survey about how these closed comedones look like more commonly, I would say that most people describe them as texture. So if you know anyone, if you've heard any of your friends saying that they have texture on their skin, they were talking about closed comedones most likely. Now, generally closed comedones appear as bumps that have the same color as your skin, so there's no inflammation or irritation. There's also no itchiness, so in other words, they are pretty much asymptomatic. It's just that they exist. People have those bumps that are annoying because their skin is not clear and it has this texture. A lot of times closed comedones can open up into open comedones or blackheads, so they have that black dot at the top. This is very common. It's very common for closed comedones to appear together with open comedones. But basically it's only this texture that pretty much bothers people, no other symptoms, as it's the case of fungal acne. So now that you have a really brief idea about fungal acne and closed comedones, about how exactly they look like, it's time to analyze their main differences. And the first thing that I would start with is irritation and redness. And this is actually a specific sign of fungal acne that doesn't appear in closed comedones. So if you have fungal acne, more often than not, your pimples will be either red, inflamed, or irritated, or itchy. So it's either one or more of these symptoms. However, if you actually have closed comedones, you are not going to have any of this. So instead, closed comedones do not have any kind of inflammation, itchiness, irritation. They simply have the same color as your skin and they appear as bumps, nothing more. There's no other symptoms. So in my opinion, this is probably the easiest way to tell the difference between them. So if your pimples are bothering you, not in terms of aspect only, but if they are itchy or if they are painful, chances are they are caused by skin fungus. And if there's absolutely no symptom besides that texture, then they are probably closed comedones. Moving on, another really important difference is that fungal acne can cause pimples with a pus. It doesn't always happen, but it is very common. So if your acne is fungal, those pimples may get a pus at one point, which obviously does not happen if you have closed comedones. So if you actually have closed comedones, you are only going to get those hard lumps. There's not going to be any pus, and in the worst case, they can transform into blackheads. But there isn't going to be absolutely any pus, so if your pimples develop any pus, they are definitely not closed comedones. The third difference is again something very specific for fungal acne, and that is itchiness. And in my experience, many cases of fungal acne are actually itchy. And if you watch some of my previous videos, I actually told you that itchiness is a very specific sign of fungal acne, so it doesn't appear in any other form of acne. This is why if you have pimples that are itchy, chances are they are produced by fungus. On the other hand, I think it's pretty clear by now that closed comedones do not cause any sort of itchiness, pain, inflammation, absolutely nothing. They're simply asymptomatic and it is only that texture that bothers you. So if you feel the need to scratch your pimples, these are definitely not closed comedones. The fourth thing that can help you tell the difference between fungal acne and closed comedones is its position, so the location of your acne. Now this is not something super specific because both fungal acne and closed comedones can pretty much appear on any part of your face or body. However, there are some locations that they affect a lot more often than others. So if your acne is fungal, it will have the tendency to appear on your hairline, so on your forehead, very close to your hair, on your chest, on your back, on your shoulders, a lot of times on your cleavage as well. And that's simply because these areas are more commonly affected by malassezia, the yeast that causes skin fungus. And I think I already explained it in another of my previous videos where I talked about fungal acne in detail. A lot of people who already have scalp dandruff, so they have the same yeast multiplying in their hair, have very high chances to develop fungal acne at some point simply because it is the same yeast that is causing it. So it's very easy for that yeast to migrate from your scalp onto your forehead, onto your hairline, as well as on your chest, back, and shoulders, which are all areas where it can fall off from your scalp. So imagine you have scalp dandruff and it's going to be very easy for that yeast to fall up from your scalp on your shoulders, on your chest, on your back as well, but obviously also on your hairline. So this is why fungal acne tends to affect these areas a lot more often than others. As for closed comedones, it's pretty much the opposite. They tend to affect the T-zone, so the forehead, the nose, and the chin, simply because these areas are generally more oily, so there is more sebum. And it kind of makes sense that you have much higher chances to get closed comedones in these areas compared to your cheeks or your jawline, for example. Even so, there are many cases where you can actually develop closed comedones in these areas that are on paper less specific. And I would say that generally if you have an oily skin type, you are a lot more at risk to get closed comedones compared to someone who has a dry skin, for example. However, in terms of location, things can overlap, so a lot of times you can get both fungal acne and closed comedones on your forehead. So your forehead is pretty much a common ground for both. This is why it's sometimes hard to tell the difference, to say if you have fungal acne or closed comedones based on their location alone. This is why I would say that the other signs are a lot more important and they can help you more compared to the location alone. And the fifth difference that can help you tell if your acne is fungal or if it is actually closed comedones is the size of your pimples. So generally, like I said, fungal acne tends to appear in clusters, in groups. It appears as pimples that are very close to each other. They're not individual, and in general, they tend to have the same size. And that's because those pimples are very much similar. So a lot of times they are identical, and you're not gonna see fungal acne as 2 large pimples and 10 smaller pimples. This is never the case. If this happens, it is because you have fungal acne combined with another form of acne. But if you have fungal acne alone, your pimples are going to have the same size and they will be very grouped. As for closed comedones, this doesn't always happen. So a lot of times closed comedones have different sizes, but you have to zoom in the pictures or look closer if you actually have some closed comedones on your face if you want to see the different sizes they have. Because a lot of times the size difference is pretty minor, but if you look closely, you will see that your closed comedones do not have the exact same sizes and they are definitely not identical. Like I said, a lot of time closed comedones appear together with open comedones, so a lot of times they can transform into open comedones, so blackheads, and this is a really good way to tell the difference. So if you actually have additional blackheads, you will be able to see a lot better the difference in size. So just look closer to your skin, to your pimples, and check if they have slightly different sizes or if they are simply identical, because this is a really good way to tell the difference. And I also want to give you a bonus difference, which is related more to closed comedones, and I'm talking about texture. So like I said, a lot of people use this word texture to define closed comedones. So when they say they have texture on their skin, they are talking about closed comedones. And generally, if you look at your pimples in the light and you can see that texture, they are more likely than not closed comedones. And that's because fungal acne won't necessarily be visible in these conditions. So it won't appear as texture, it will only appear as regular pimples that are inflamed, itchy, red, and so on, but they will never appear as texture. Instead, if you do see some texture on your skin, this is definitely closed comedones. And if you paid attention to this video, by now you should be able to tell if your acne is actually caused by skin fungus or if it is simply closed comedones. So if you are at this point, congratulations. And right now I want to talk about the best way to treat each of them. So we're going to start with fungal acne. And generally, if your acne is fungus, the thing you want to start with are anti-fungal creams, because in my experience, they work amazingly for skin fungus. So they are a first-line treatment, a first-line solution that works in pretty much all cases, and a lot of times there's no need for something else. So you can generally go for classic antifungal creams, but if you do not manage to get any, you can also go for dandruff shampoos, because like I said, the yeast that causes scalp dandruff is the same as that one causing fungal acne. So the treatment, the shampoo that works well for scalp dandruff is also going to fix your fungal acne. So when it comes to this, things are pretty simple and there's no need for something else in most cases. But one tip I can give you if you have fungal acne and if you are generally prone to fungal acne, so you have a skin that is prone to this kind of fungus, and in this case you have higher chances to get this kind of acne over and over again throughout your life. So in this case, here's what I would recommend you. First of all, you want to stay away from oils in general and from products that have a greasier consistency. They are definitely not suitable for your skin type if you notice that you get fungal acne pretty often. And that's because in general, oils create the perfect environment for yeast multiplication. This is also available for skin bacteria, but right now we're talking about yeast. So you are more prone to get fungal acne acne, and in this case you definitely want to stay away of things that make your skin the perfect environment for this fungus, and oils are definitely the best example for this. But there are some exceptions, and I really feel the need to mention them. You know, I'm a big fan of double cleansing, especially if you have any kind of acne or skin issues, and double cleansing does involve using an oil-based cleanser first. So in this case, you can definitely use this kind of product even though it is based on oils, and that's because you are simply using it as the first step from your cleansing routine. So this kind of cleanser based on oil will not have the time to sit on your skin long enough for it to promote yeast multiplication. Besides, you are also cleansing it with a water-based cleanser, so that second water-based cleanser is going to take away that oil really easily, and it's not going to leave anything greasy on your skin. Another exception I want to point out here is tea tree oil, which is actually an oil that has some strong antifungal properties, so it is amazing for those of you who have fungal acne that doesn't respond to classic antifungals. And I always recommend tea tree oil as a secondary solution for people with fungal acne. It works really well, obviously not as it is because you would have to dilute it first, but I have another video where I talk about tea tree oil as a remedy for acne, and I'm gonna link that below. Make sure to check it out if you have fungal acne, if you're thinking about using tea tree oil for fungal acne, because I give you a lot more details there on how exactly you should use it. But generally, tea tree oil is an exception because you can definitely use it if you have fungal acne. It's probably one of the few oils I actually recommend in this case. And when it comes to close comedones, I would say that exfoliation is the key. So you want to exfoliate once or maximum twice a week, depending on what your skin tolerates. Like I always say, the oilier your skin is, the more actives it is going to tolerate and the more exfoliation it is going to tolerate. But in general, if you have closed comedones, I would recommend exfoliation as the first step. The exact product you're gonna use will definitely depend on what you like. You can go for things like AHAs, which are generally some milder exfoliants. If your skin is on the oilier side, I would recommend salicylic acid, which is a BHA, and it's actually recommended. It's really good for oily skin because it's gonna unclog your pores, so this is perfect if you have closed comedones. But make sure not to exfoliate more often than that because you can damage your skin barrier, and this is definitely something you do not want. Another thing I would recommend you if you have closed comedones is using either a retinol or a retinoid, because this would increase your skin cells turnover, which is exactly what you need if you have closed comedones. Now, in general, I would prefer to go for a retinol instead of a retinoid because retinoids are generally a lot more dangerous in terms of side effects. Dangerous is probably not the best word, but you do get what I mean. They tend to cause side effects a lot more often, and they can irritate your skin a lot easier compared to a retinol. And when it comes to closed comedones, you usually want to apply that retinoid or that retinol on larger areas simply because closed comedones do tend to appear on larger areas. This is why I personally like retinols a lot more than retinoids when it comes to closed comedones. But again, this definitely depends on you and on what your skin tolerates. You obviously want to build it up, so you do not want to use that retinol or the retinoid every single day from the start, and you do not want to use it in a large dose, in a high dose. You want to build it up and make sure that your skin gets used to it so that you do not damage your skin barrier and you do not irritate your skin. Now let's get back to the pictures we mentioned at the beginning of this video because I want to analyze them and explain you in detail why each of them is fungal acne and respectively closed comedones and which is not. So let's take the first picture, and this is actually fungal acne. You can see that the pimples appear on the forehead, which is a very specific area for fungal acne. They're pretty small and they do have very similar sizes and shapes, so they are pretty much identical. You can see that there is a very minor irritation or redness. We do not know about itchiness, but it is most likely present as well. So this is a really good example of a fungal acne. On the other hand, this picture is not. I actually had a person asking for my opinion about their acne, and they sent me this picture. They thought it was fungal acne, but it was definitely not the case. As you can see here, the pimples are very different in size. Their shapes are also different, which is not something specific for fungal acne. And just because this acne is located on the forehead doesn't mean that it is fungal. So generally, acne that appears on the forehead can be fungal, but it's not always the case. So there are many other causes that can produce acne on this area, not skin fungus alone. I would also say that this acne is way too cystic for it to be caused by skin fungus, because generally fungal acne is a lot more mild. The pimples are a lot smaller and they're very similar, which is definitely not the case here. So in my opinion, this acne might be caused by the gut, for example, especially if it also appears on the cheeks. We do not know for sure, but it is definitely not caused by skin fungus. Moving on to the next picture, this is also a really good example of closed comedones. You can see that these pimples have the same color as the skin. They have exactly the same size, which is not necessarily a specific sign. There's also no inflammation, no redness, no irritation, which is again something normal for closed comedones. The area in which they appear isn't necessarily the most common one. Like I said, closed comedones tend to appear on the T-zone, and this picture actually shows some bumps on the chin, which is not necessarily a specific area, but like I said, it is possible for closed comedones to appear in pretty much any area. But in terms of appearance, this picture resembles closed comedones for sure, so this is definitely not fungal acne. As for this second picture, it actually shows some closed comedones combined with a more severe acne. So if you look at the top, you will see some kind of bumps that have the same color as the skin. There's no pus, there's no inflammation, no redness, and those are definitely closed comedones. But you also see some pimples that are more cystic, more severe, more aggressive. They're definitely inflamed and they seem a lot more painful. So these are definitely not closed comedones. They're most likely acne caused by the gut or by some hormonal issues. So definitely something internal, and this is why this picture doesn't 100% show closed comedones. It does show closed comedones, but they are combined with some classic acne. So in my opinion, these are the best ways to tell the difference between fungal acne and closed comedones, and I really hope that this video was helpful and that it gave you a really good idea on how to tell the difference and on how to be sure if you actually have acne caused by skin fungus or you simply have closed comedones. If you know any other ways to tell the difference between these two, let me know in the comments below, because I am very eager to hear your opinion. So I will see you in the next video.